Yum, yum. It's time for a tasty and refreshing snack.
You know who I can do without? I can do without the people in the video store.
Which ones?
All of them. They never rent quality flicks. They always pick the most intellectually devoid movie on the racks.
And now, on with the show.
Let's do it, guys! It's morphin' time!
Have a nice trip!
Watch the birdie!
Bye-bye. Gotta love it.
Taking over the world is one thing. Finding good help to run it for you, that's the killer.
Restricted area.
Guys?
There's something in there.
Dilly, what are you doing?
Guys!
What is it? Security.
Somebody should have pointed that out. Wait, I did.
You know something happened up there, okay? I'm not the same. I'm strong.
How strong?
Insanely strong.
No.
I feel like we need to go back out there.
I'm gonna jump across with her, and then you jump. Piece of cake.
Let's go.
No, don't jump! Jason! That's not a piece of cake!
Hey guys, what's going on? You are listening to ThisWeekInGeek.net's Loose Cannon, the show where we talk about big movies, new, old, or kind of obscure, and there might be a thin layer of dust upon it because it's been hiding under a shell for about 20 or so years. I'm your host, Mike the Birdman, and I welcome my compatriots from the Twig Video Network, which I just made up right now. I'm joined from the great state, whatever, Ken.
Hey, this is Ken from This Anime, and yeah.
Yeah, it's been a week. And of course, Twig's regional manager, and that guy from that other podcast.
David the Noyer from Troy, Ohio.
My God, it feels good to have everybody back in the virtual room. It feels like it's just been a little while with schedules, illnesses, the world blowing up around us. It's a grand time to just watch movies for a change, where at least, something cool happens and there's a special effect or something like that, where it doesn't affect, the world. But hey, we're not talking politics today. We're going to talk about something kind of fun. And I can't even remember who suggested this topic, but I'm really glad you did. Today's Loose Cannon, we're going to be talking about sort of original and remake, though not really. It's more like a property that's been rebooted, so to speak. And we're going to be
rebooted and failed, unfortunately.
Yeah, which is a real
Multiple
friggin'
times.
tragedy.
Multiple times.
So we're going to be talking about the 1995 Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, the movie, and then Power Rangers from 2017. I have a very long history with the Power Rangers franchise. I'll start first so you guys can kind of think about your ideas, how you started with Power Rangers. So I'm a child of the 80s and 90s. I was at the perfect age when Power Rangers was right at its height. I was in grade 6 when this came, when Power Rangers came to North America. So that's about 93 or so. I watched Power Rangers continuously up until about probably Power Rangers Zeo, and then I fell out of it for a while, but I went to the movies whenever they came out. So Mighty Morphin was just before Zeo, so they didn't have the Zeo crystal powers yet. The original cast had changed, so Jason had left, Trini had left, and who the fuck else left? Zach, Billy. Yeah, it was the Red Ranger left, the Yellow Ranger left, and who else left? Help me out. Was that it?
Tommy? Well, you had Tommy had went to a bunch of different other spinoffs. So I mean, Jason David Frank, R.I.P. He was around. I mean, he was probably the ringleader of the series to an extent for the fan base, I would say, because I feel like he was the one that went to all the cons and kept it alive and whatnot. And I mean, he was always a big purveyor of it. So I mean, yeah, absolutely, he was one of them. But yeah, I mean, they've gone through so many inclinations of it. It's kind of hard to keep track. But that OG squad, they stuck around for what I think it's like 2-3 seasons of the original series, and then branched off into Alien Rangers.
Yep, and then they came back after this movie. They got the Ninjetti powers, and then they got the Zeo powers, and then the Turbo, then in space, blah, 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 blah. So when I was a kid, I remember getting into this. Like, I remember watching Day of the Dumpster on Fox Kids, but any kid who was alive during the 90s can tell you about the 5 days where the Green Power Ranger kicked everybody's ass. And it was literally a phenomenon. Like, Green Ranger toys were everywhere. I remember I think I had all the Rangers in the 12-inch scale for the action figures. I got those for Christmas one year. I even had a Megazord. I didn't have the really good Bandai Zord. I didn't get that till probably about 2017, actually. I got one complete for about $50. I have the original Dragon Zord. I've got a White Tiger Zord that's about 90% complete. The only thing I don't have is Titanus, which was the Brachiosaur, and I don't have Tor the Shuttle Zord from the original 90s stuff. But yeah, this franchise was my life for a number of years. This is why I took karate. I, like many kids in that era, I got as high as red belt or orange stripe. I can't remember which, but it was really cool. It was a phenomenon to really experience, to live through this time. So when the movie came out, I remember going to see this on the first Saturday that it was out. I didn't go opening night on the Friday, but I went the first matinee on the Saturday. And this was when my cinema was, I want to say, Owen Sound Cinemas 3 or 5 in the proverbial dirt mall we used to have. And that place was packed. And when the Rangers first came on screen in their new updated armor, which is, upon looking back upon it now, it's not as cool as I thought it was, but I have a lot of behind the scenes stuff about some of the merch for this movie and some of the costuming. It was unreal. It was like anything I'd ever seen. Though watching this movie again through the eyes of a 43-year-old, oh wow, have I got thoughts? So I guess I'll go to Ken next, because I think you're who's the next oldest here in the room?
We're the same age.
Both the same age.
Okay, so who's the bigger Power Rangers fan then?
I mean, I might be, but I have no idea.
All right, go for it. All right, Dave, let's go with you, and then we'll finish out with Ken.
Yeah, so Power Rangers has been a part of my life ever since I was a very, very young kid. When this movie came out, I would have been 3 years old, and it's possible I saw it in theaters, but I do not know for sure. But backing up to OG Power Rangers, I lived and breathed Power Rangers. I had the entire Green Ranger run VHS tapes, so for the 5 VHS tapes, I had those. I watched the show religiously every day. I had the figures, which I actually recently just sold in a yard sale a couple of years ago.
I remember asking to buy those, actually.
Yeah, and actually it turned out to be that nobody bought the OGs because I actually didn't put them out in the yard sale because I was holding on to them. Not for you. I think you'd already gotten back to me by that point, but I think I was holding on to somebody else. And I ended up selling them at a local shop. But I had those till I was 30, basically. So I mean, I had them for years and years and years, and seen the movie countless times. I've seen spin-off episodes. I was a fan of was it Zeo Rangers? Was that because I know Turbo was one point, and then Zeo was another VHS tape I think I had. Green is my favorite color because of Tommy Oliver. Like that is to this day, that still retains as my favorite color because of the Green Ranger and because of Power Rangers. So it was one of those situations that I remember growing up with this movie, but I genuinely have no idea if I saw it in theaters, but I know I watched the hell out of it on VHS. And then eventually got a DVD when I was in college because I wanted to, it was like a $5 purchase at either Walmart or where I worked at that time, which is FYE. And then I think it was probably 5 or 6 years ago, maybe even a little longer than that Shout Factory put out not only the complete series, but put Power Rangers the movie on Blu-ray. And I looked it up the other day. I had no idea this damn thing is so out of print now. Like it's $90 and up now.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
it just recently hit Tubi in the States at least. Because when I was watching it in preparation for this podcast, I was like, shit, this movie is nowhere to be found unless you want to buy like a $5 DVD off Amazon. But yeah, actually,
and then you looked it up,
States.
and it's like it's on Tubi.
Yeah,
of course it is.
That just happened literally as I was sitting here getting ready because I pulled up the information for the show, and I was like, well, it wasn't on there a couple weeks ago. I know that for a fact because it was nowhere.
It might have just came on Tubi like this week or something like that.
But yeah, it was a religious experience for me. I still have the soundtrack on cassette. I have the soundtrack on CD as well. If they release it on vinyl, I'll probably get it on vinyl. It's a soundtrack for a motion picture that I cycle like probably several times in my car a year.
Oh wow!
I love a lot of things about this movie, which we'll get into. But yeah, Power Rangers has always been a big staple in my life. So I'm very excited to get into this.
Mm-hmm. All right, Ken.
Nice.
What about you, buddy?
With me, I actually am more of a casual Power Rangers fan because my brother, who is 2 years younger than me, he was a 94 baby, got into it really hard during the late Zeo, early Turbo era. And then, of course, because he's my little brother, I just watched it with him. And we got into it more with the In Space. We started we went through Lost Galaxy, went Lightspeed Rescue, Time Force, Wild Force is about where we stopped. Like middle of Wild Force is about where we stopped fucking watching the series. And then it was basically just when like a couple of years after the transition to Disney doing the production. And yeah, with this movie, the last time I watched it was during college when a bunch of us decided, hey, let's watch something stupid and riff on it. Wait, the Power Rangers movie's on Netflix. Let's watch that.
When I was going through this, like kind of revisiting my like Power Rangers fandom, I got into Power Rangers pretty hard when the 2017 movie came up, but I also really fell into the comic books for Boom Studios, which me and JT did an episode on that a while back. We're going to have to redo the entire series because now there's like a new Power Rangers comic done by Boom. And I reviewed the role-playing game for Renegade Game Studio. So, huge fan.
I read the 4-issue. I don't know if it was Boom or not, but I know I read the 4-issue when they relaunched the OG a while back. And by a while back, it could be nearly a decade at this point. But I know I read a 4-issue series when they relaunched Power Rangers. So I don't know if that was the one or not.
Probably, because they started... And it basically picks up after Tommy joins the team. And then it went through up until last year as of this recording. But the thing that really got me into it was something called Shattered Grid, where basically there's an evil Tommy named Lord Draken who goes through the morphing grid, going through different realities, stealing different Ranger abilities. But every time he goes to a different world, if he can find a version of Tommy there, he'll kill him. There's one preview where he goes to the world of the Zeo Rangers because he looks like them. So he kills Red Ranger Tommy in his apartment with Saba. And it's like, holy shit. And it's amazing how much the Power Rangers franchise has really matured. Now, I have seen some Japanese Sentai stuff, which is what Power Rangers is based upon.
Yeah, Super Sentai, yeah.
And some of it is really interesting. Like I watched, I think it was called Q Ranger, which is what Dino Fury was based on or something. Like one of the more recent series. And it is amazing how different that shit is from the Japanese to the American footage. But to swing things back to the Power Rangers 95 movie, it was one of those things that I was expecting to have more in common with the show. But when I went on the Power Rangers wiki, I was realizing how inconsistent it really is. I mean, despite like now you've got Rocky, Aisha, Adam, who are the new black, yellow, and red Rangers, and you still have Billy, you still have Kimberly from the original team, and Tommy's now the White Ranger.
Yep.
You just realize how many inconsistencies there are between seasons. They now have new powers, new armor, stuff that's never referenced before, and never referenced again. They get their ninjetti powers differently in the movie compared to the show. In the show, they meet Ninjor, who grants them these new upgraded abilities. Here, they're granted them by Dulcea, who's this entity on a different planet when they go to save Zordon. I guess, Dave, why don't you give us a super high-level overview of the movie, then we'll kind of pick it apart.
Yeah, so Mighty Morphin Power Rangers the movie, 1995, 1 hour and 35 minutes. I would read the IMDb synopsis, but the basic gist of the film is you have the Power Rangers living in Angel Grove as they normally do. Zordon and Alpha get word that there has been an unearthing of Ivan Ooze's egg that he basically is born out of, that they have found in this construction project that they're working on in Angel Grove. Long story short, he gets unleashed. He is unleashed by Lord Zed, Rita, Goldar, and I cannot. Did anybody remember the pig dude's name? I can never remember his name.
I think it's called Tembo or Temba, something like that.
Yeah, Tembo sounds right. Yeah, and so they end up freeing Ivan Ooze, and Lord Zed is like, "Hey, Zordon's still alive," and Ivan Ooze is like, "I swore my vengeance on him." Goes and basically wrecks the entire center for the Rangers to where like they lose their powers, they lose their abilities. And also in doing so, he enslaves Lord Zed and Rita and has Goldar and Tempo working for him, decides that he's going to use Angel Grove as his new home and take it over by infecting the adults with the ooze that he sells to children in a really scary and sketchy wizard costume that I'm sure we'll talk about a little later on as well. And then, Power Rangers have to go find their powers again by going to another planet where they basically get these ninja powers. They learn their true identities once again. They come back and have to fight Ivan Ooze. It is one of those movies that if you've seen it once, you've seen it before because it's just that standard superhero take. But like what I love most about Power Rangers in this aspect of the movie is that it is so 90s, so cheesy, and so rewarding just in the general comfort of comfort food watches, I guess I could say.
Honestly, and it all stands on Paul Freeman as Ivan Ooze.
Oh my god, dude, he is so good. Like that's the number one thing I think that people forget is that is literally Belloc from Raiders of the Lost Ark. Like that's your core villain in the 1995 Mighty Morphin Power Rangers movie is Belloc, and he is a classic British trained actor. He knows like the marks. He wore this entirely like heavy ass suit and like has fun doing it. And the movie is solely watchable because of him. You're not wrong.
Oh yeah, like he hams it up in every scene that he is in, and they even talk about during the wiki how he's like, as you mentioned, this classically trained actor. He's Belloc, and how occasionally, if you go back and watch the movie, he slips into his accent every so often by accident, but it kind of works. Like it's so ridiculously over the top, you're willing to forgive it. And again, having the classic villains of Rita and Lord Zed work with him, even though they get shoved off pretty quickly. For some reason, Rita's hot in this, but sure. Lord Zed still looks great.
I can't remember the actress's name but it's not. I don't think is it the same woman from the series?
Oh,
I didn't think so.
Not.
Yeah, I did not think so. Yeah, I was gonna say I didn't think so. Yeah, because I can't remember the actress's name, but I've watched an interview with her, but I can't remember. But I mean, also Brian Spicer is the guy that's leading the band on this one as the director, and this is the man behind 6 episodes of Sequest for Richer Poorer with Tim Allen. You've also got things like Third Watch, Night Visions, Dark Angel. I mean, he was a TV like leader in regards to his directing career, like episodes of House, Las Vegas, CSI, Bones. So
24.
the fact, 24. So the fact that like he literally starts with like The Adventures of Briscoe County is his early resume. Salute Your Shorts. Booker is the very first thing, and not including also in Erie, Indiana. So he does all these like, TV shows and then goes and does a theatrical film for a TV series and then goes into like X-Files and all this stuff. you had a guy that definitely knew the craft, and it's kind of interesting when you think about the aspect of that this came along like what 2 or 3 years into the series, if that.
Yeah, exactly. And to hand and to have such a big IP handed to such, I would say, a relatively neophyte director. Yeah, that's a lot of trust that Fox placed in him.
He was only directing for the last like 5-ish years.
Yeah. 93 is when Power Rangers kicks off, and then 95 is the movie. So yeah, 2 years in. So I mean, to have somebody take over a franchise and make a theatrical film out of it is one of the biggest challenges, which something we'll absolutely talk about too when we get into the 2017 is, you got to follow your fan base. You got to follow your core people. You're going to get people in there that are going to be talking about this on a podcast 20 something years later.
Oh yeah. And like one of the things I even found out about this is there was a version, and I think there's even test footage of this. I think I've seen stills of this. So I want to say this is not, a false memory, but I think I've seen versions of the Green Ranger costume that were done up for this. But by the time the show had aired, they were into the White Ranger thing. They're like, well, guys, we got to change it. One of the interesting behind the scenes things that I found out they had to go back and reshoot some stuff is they had to go back and reshoot scenes with the Power Rangers visors put back in place.
Yeah, I did hear that.
Yeah, I was like, okay, that's kind of a weird take, but it gets it because, when you're in the helmet, you can't really emote. But yet when they get their ninja outfits, you can still see their eyes and their stuff, so they can still emote, express, and do whatever.
Well, and I think a lot of people also forget, too, that Tommy was the Green Ranger even when he turned good. He was the Green Ranger for a while as a good persona of it for, I want to say, at least a season before they transitioned into the White Ranger. So it's kind of funny because then that kind of places it to where it's almost like this is Tommy's film in a sense, because I mean, he is, front and center on the cover, of course. And, it was, I think this may have been like a soft launch after the White Ranger had kind of taken place on the show.
Yeah, because the White Ranger happens at like the beginning of season 2 or somewhere in there. And, the White Ranger, like in the original Sentai's, the White Ranger's a kid in the original Sentai, from what I understand, and it's really kind of goofy. Yet, the Green Ranger was an older, hardcore, more kind of dude. But everybody always associates Tommy with green, and ultimately, I still think that's the most badass looking costume. Not that the White Ranger costume looks bad. It's just, I don't know. If I had to pick, I would have went with green. But
the costumes alone are worth the watch, because the effects are definitely something that has become dated more with each year. Because I remember specifically, I watched this with my roommate the night I watched it, and I was like, yeah, this scene always creeped me out. And it was the scene when they're at the rock formations and they're trying to get their powers back, and then those rock formations turn into creatures and come after them. That scene used to scare me because like the visuals and everything were kind of creepy, because it was like, they're rock formations, then they get sucked in, then they get their weapons and come out. You watch this on the Blu-ray, that shit looks terrible.
Oh yeah. Like the thing that always really grabbed me, and it's something I've kind of gone back and forth over the years, when the Rangers get their updated armored costumes is what I kind of refer to them as, which they do kind of reference it in the show where they get the metallic armor. It's just their spandex is covered in sparkles. Literally, I'm not even kidding. But they get like upgraded things for their gear. Like Aisha has these like lights in her helmet that can light up shit. Rocky gets this like Cylon like visor that can like scan for life forms and all that shit. And I was surprised how cool that shit looked. And now recently, as of this recording, there was a fairly significant auction where the entirety of the Power Rangers costume, monsters, Zords, everything has been sold off to private collectors, and some Ranger actors still have some of their stuff. Most of the Ranger costumes were kept together. There is one guy on Facebook. I'm in a Power Rangers fandom group. Somebody has 99% of the Ivan Ooze costume currently.
Wow.
And the only piece they're missing is the headpiece, but they got everything else to it. And they also have the Yellow Ranger costume from the movie. and I want to say they've got something. I think they've got one of the Ninjetti outfits as well complete. And it was kind of amazing just looking at some of the costuming of this, because I know Planet Hollywood, it's either, this might even be as close as Niagara Falls, so not too far from me, where the Yellow Ranger costume is still on display from that. I think the only piece that's missing is the power coin that was in the suit's chest, but that went for private sale a couple of years ago. So getting stuff from this movie wasn't that hard. It was fairly affordable. Most Ranger costumes went for a lot less than what you might think, which
Also,
is, I always thought was kind of cool.
If I remember correctly, this was like the beginning of them doing their own footage.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of supplementing it with the Sentai footage, they started doing their own stuff because of the movie.
Yeah.
They spent the money on the movie to make the costumes here in the States.
And that's probably
they shot
why
this in Melbourne too.
Yeah, and that's probably also why the violence is so kind of kicked up to the cheesy aspect, even more so with like the one scene where I can't remember if it's Tommy or Jason that does the flying kick that lasts like 3.5 seconds in the air with his feet going 1,000 miles an hour. But what I really picked up on with this recent watch is they did the thing that you're supposed to do when you have a theatrical film from a TV series, and it's like you make it its own, but you give your nods to the TV series. You know, we don't go to the juice bar or anything at any point in the movie, but
but there is a sign for Ernie's. If you
there
look
is a
in
sign
the
for
background.
Ernie's. Yeah, there is a sign for Ernie's. You're not wrong. Yeah, but like we meet new characters. We still have Bulk and Skull, which is one of the things that when we get there, I think 2017 severely lacking is humor. But also, I don't think it works too bad in its favor on that. But we'll get to there. But the perfect balance of humor, the perfect balance of creatures. And to be perfectly honest, the movie itself is pretty simple. It's Power Rangers lose their powers, have to go get their powers, and vanquish the evil. That's exactly what you would want out of it. Whereas when we get to the other one, you know, there's a whole crossover with everybody's life and their storylines going on. When it comes to the Power Rangers, I want to watch the Power Rangers use their powers, kick some ass, and, you know, do all that cheesy fun stuff that they do at the end of the episodes. And that's what you get out of this movie. Not to mention, too, like, it is still a pretty solid superhero movie, even for, you know, being in the midst of the mid-90s where superhero movies were few and far between. I mean, this is kind of one that really nailed its genre piece, nailed its audience. But I mean, at the same time, too, you know, this is also for a younger audience. I mean, with that PG rating for one to reflect that. But adults will love this movie too, and I mean, I remember watching this with my parents growing up. I remember my mom, you know, watching Power Rangers with me a lot. So I think it's really appreciative to the fact that you have a franchise that was handled beautifully by a director that knew what he was doing. They knew the assignment for the film, and there's so many great one-liners. There's so many great scenes. Like I mentioned, the soundtrack already. I think Power Rangers, the motion picture, really holds a torch to what a superhero movie can be when you have a franchise that you like kind of want, or not franchise, when you have a series that you want to incorporate into film. This is kind of a good blueprint to follow, and it's a simple story that's been done numerous times.
Yeah, like it's the perfect encapsulation and continuation of that 90s aesthetic. It doesn't try to go super hard. Like you said, it knows the assignment. It knows as much of the lore that it needs to bring over. It doesn't bog you down in who Zordon is. You just know he's their leader. He's their buddy. Alpha is like his lab assistant. You get enough of the Rangers' personalities explained very simply. They make Tommy the star.
Yeah.
They kind of hint at the romance between him and Kim. And that's great. Like, it does exactly everything it needs to do. It gives a chance for an ordinary citizen. I think the kid's name is Fred or something.
Yeah.
To be a hero to his dad. That's
and even
great.
going with Fred, I think too, for what Ivan Ooze is doing, when you think about it, which if you haven't seen the movie, what he's doing essentially is he is making a slave army out of the parents of Angel Grove by having them get infected by this ooze, and they're working his factory, they're producing the ooze, they're doing all this stuff and getting his giant scorpion.
Scorpion and like a bee-like thing.
Yeah, like things with stingers to basically destroy Angel Grove, which is where we get, you know, the introduction of them getting their powers back and getting into their Dragon Zord and all that stuff fighting. And it's what you would expect from any typical superhero movie, but like when you think about it, it's like he literally at one point is getting ready to drop all the parents into a fucking cliff, like off a cliff into this giant ravine and kill them. Like, and the thing that stops them is getting sprayed with a hose of water by Bulk and Skull, with Fred being the one to lead it and everything. So I mean, even that kid power thing is present, but the kid power is vanquishing serious fucking heinous evil. If you think about it.
Like, it's really kind of impressive. I mean, like, again, it works for what it was. One of the things to also kind of mention about this too is it introduced a whole new range of abilities which would get carried on into the show with the kind of ninja powers. They got new Zords, although the Zords look different from the movie to the show, which is to be expected.
They're shiny. They're really, really shiny and chrome, more so than you would expect.
And I actually had, because there are two versions of the Zord. There's the one that was the Bandai version, and then there was one that came out with the Power Rangers Legacy line a couple of years ago. I actually have that still with the Falcon Zord, which I think is one of the best designs they've like ever done.
Yeah.
The Ninja Megazord, not my favorite design when it's the Ninja Mega Falcon Zord. It is pretty cool. But yeah, like, it took everything we wanted. You still get the Rangers having their original costumes. Then they can switch to their ninja thing. So they changed the status quo while still allowing to have the classic look that every kid knows and loves. Like I said, it really did the homework. It would be nice if there was more connective tissue between the movies. But in terms of a Ranger what if alternate universe side story, it kind of works. I'm actually very surprised, and this is just me going off on a tangent for like 30 seconds.
Mm-hmm.
It would have been cool had the Boom Studios comics found a way to put Ivan Ooze into the comics. As far as I can tell, he's a movie exclusive villain, and having that like pig alien Temba or Tembu or whatever his fucking name is be in the comics too. But it's funny though, someone had pointed this out. There was a cut line of dialogue where the pig guy is actually Goldar's brother's roommate or something, but they cut
do
the line.
Look alike in the aspect of like the way that they're built and everything, so that wouldn't surprise me. I think honestly too, Ivan Ooze is funny. I think that's the key, is that he's so evil, but he also likes to have a good time. So, you know, you've got I remember I made my roommate laugh really loud because it was the scene where they're at the construction site and he's like, I'm bored. And he makes that guy dance. If you think about it, how is that music playing? He doesn't have the power to just summon music. So what I did was literally just muted it. And I was like, this is what's happening right now. This man is literally just dancing to a song that no one is hearing. And that's like literally what's happening right now.
One of there's a line that he says, he's like, I miss the Spanish Inquisition. I've had a cramp since the Renaissance. I miss the Brady Bunch reunion. I think that line was ad-libbed. I think
100%.
My favorite is still, we're the Power Rangers. Power Rangers. Woo! Where's my autograph book?
I know, it's so goofy. It's so
Paul
good,
Friedman. He like knew the assignment, and that's what. If it wasn't for him, this movie would probably be that. Yeah, it's a Power Rangers movie, but it's not that great. Whereas with him, this is a lot of fun still. Yeah, it's not it's not like a 5-star film by any means, but I think I actually gave it like 4 or 5 on Letterboxd when I think about it. But it's entertaining. Like, I mean, it's on Tubi right now in the States, readily available. If you haven't seen it and you're familiar with the Power Rangers, you can jump right in. You're going to be fine. Because all you need to know is that it's in Angel Grove. There's an evil in Angel Grove. Power Rangers lose their power, and we're in. I mean, that's basically the premise of it. But on top of all of that, I think what the number one thing really works for this movie is it's 95 minutes.
Yeah,
it is a less than 2-hour runtime that we have not seen for superhero movies a lot lately. I mean, even in the 90s, they were pushing them a little bit, because I think Phantom is at least at the 2-hour mark, if not a little over, if I'm not mistaken.
So. Yeah.
Yep.
Now, go ahead.
Now, one thing I was going to mention, did you know there's a Freddy's Nightmares connection to this movie?
If I had to guess, is it the guy that stunted for Freddy is in this?
No, there was when Dulcia was cast, it was originally the woman from Law and Order SVU, who is a Freddy's Nightmare alumni.
Mariska Hargitay.
That's right. She played Dulcia, and there is footage of her playing it. There is tons of behind the scenes stills. but for some reason or another that I can't remember it now, she dropped out and was replaced by the current actress.
It might have been for Law and Order, Birdman.
Yeah, I think Law and Order SVU was like 99, 98, something like that.
Was she only SVU? Because I thought she was. Okay,
She was specifically SVU.
Yeah.
Okay, that's my my bad.
But yeah, I remember that came to mind because I remember when you and Hen, because for those of you listeners that don't know, Dave and his good friend Enrique Couto did a show called Welcome to Primetime, a Freddy's Nightmares podcast, and they talked about Merida, and I remember I was re-listening to your podcast because I'm weird and creepy despite the fact that I'm your friend. I was listening back and I'm like, why did and I'm thinking, okay, that's Miss Law and Order. Wait a second. And I went back through her thing. And I'm like, holy shit, you were Dulcia. That's cool. So anyway, yeah, Power Rangers 95, worth a watch, 95 minutes, well spent. And then we come to 2017. So this is a movie I was fairly excited for because I didn't know what to expect. To bring Power Rangers back into the main cultural zeitgeist, a bit of a monumental task. Now, there always has been a Power Rangers series on television in some capacity. Around that time, I want to say it was Dino Charge or maybe Super Mega Force, something along those lines. And I was starting to get back into the Boom Studios comics, I want to say around this time. If not, something had got me interested because I remember watching Power Rangers RPM and Power Rangers SPD around this time. Fantastic series if you haven't seen them. So I didn't get a chance to see this in theaters, unfortunately. But the second it came out on 4K Blu-ray, I bought it. Mm-hmm. And remember having a really, really good time. But it wasn't Power Rangers per se. It was sort of like a Power Rangers prequel that had some morphing in it. And it tried to bring... Because a lot of movies in the late aughts were in that sort of, it needs to be a gritty, dark, realistic reboot. And it kind of does it. I mean, they had Bryan Cranston as Zordon, not bad casting. Bill Hader as Alpha 5. Elizabeth Banks as Rita, a.k.a. their version of the Green Ranger. And it had a fairly decent cast. I was actually very surprised to see what some of these actors have gone on to do, including Stranger Things, Smile 2, many other well-known properties.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, this looks like it's going to be pretty good. And for the most part, it's entertaining, but it's definitely not Power Rangers 95. So where do we go from here, guys? Basically,
I mean,
yeah. You may give the pertinent deets and then we'll get into it.
Yeah.
So Power Rangers 2017, PG-13, 2 hours and 4 minutes, and rated PG-13 for sequences of sci-fi violence, action, destruction, language, and some crude humor. This is directed by Dean Israelite, who, to my knowledge, only really had Project Almanac before this and hasn't really done a lot of other big things after this, unfortunately.
Because this thing bombed hard.
Oh, actually, no, not entirely true. He did the Are You Afraid of the Dark reboot, which is actually really solid if you guys haven't seen that yet. It's like 3 seasons so far, I think, and it's been pretty fun. But the one thing that I will say right off the bat that is a troubling sign from this project is there's 8 writers credited. Now, yes, there are 3 from the original series and whatnot. Well, then you've got 5 additional writers on it.
Well, here's the thing. I was following the production of this quite thoroughly, and there was so much that went wrong with this production. I remember when they first announced it, they were like, we're going to be gritty and realistic, and then it kept going writer after writer after writer. It was just like a conveyor belt.
Well, because it was piggybacking off that short film that Jason David Frank disowned, right? Because that was, I think that short film was like 2013, 2012 or something like that. Yes. That was like that R-rated, drug-using, foul language spewing Power Rangers. That was really decent, I will say. I really like that short
Very
a lot.
Cool.
Yeah.
But, like, when they started casting, I'm like, all right, Bryan Cranston, I had known Bryan Cranston had done some VO work as like extra monsters,
Nizzlerd or something like that from the original series. Yeah,
he was a couple of extra monsters in the original series. Some of those were uncredited, but it was it was really cool. I'm like, okay, that's cool. Kind of full circle with him and the franchise. And then you also had Bill Hader's Alpha 5, which I'm hit or miss with Bill Hader. I think he can be really good and really bad at times, and I think he does an okay job. Alpha 5 is supposed to be sort of annoying sometimes, so it's fine.
I like Hader in this specifically because his Alpha 5 has an approach to where he's not just a plebe of Zordons. Like, him and Zordon
Right.
like actually talk about a plan and talk about what they're going to do for the Rangers and whatnot. And also, I really like the fact that he is very aware of the surroundings and the situation to where he's like, they didn't morph. And then Zordon's like, all right, take them down to the training center. He's like, all right, guys, let's all go down the training center. It's going to hurt, but come on down.
One thing I found out while doing a little bit of research for this, one of the several original Rangers had actually auditioned to be in this movie. Brendan Maja, who played the Dino Charge Red Ranger, auditioned to be in this. He auditioned to be Zach. I think the purple or pink Ranger from Dino Charge, Camille, also auditioned to be in it. Now, there is a Ranger cameo in this. You do get Jason David Frank. You get Amy Jo Johnston in a cameo scene, which, again, kind of nice that like they had a chance to be involved.
Absolutely.
But one of the things that kind of bugs me about this, and Brendan did a video about this a couple of weeks ago, I want to say, as of this recording, he was like, there wasn't nearly enough fight scenes in this. And it's not to say you need violence to carry it, but part of the Power Rangers experience is martial arts.
Yeah.
And you don't get the kids do that. You get them learning their abilities while they're unmorphed, which, again, I'm not against. Like, they have their power coins and they start to develop new abilities, how they're tougher, stronger, faster. And, but they don't know how to do all the martial arts stuff. I mean, they can fight when they go to the pit. They start to figure it out instinctively, but it's not like, A-level martial arts sort of thing.
You can just go ahead and bite the bullet while we're here at this point. They don't fucking get to morph until there's a half hour left of the movie.
Yeah, and that's
it's a 2-hour movie. So you're talking 90 minutes of a Power Rangers movie with no Power Rangers, basically.
Yeah.
And I mean, I get it because it's the first movie of the series, and then the rest of it got canceled, unfortunately, due to the return on it. So, I mean, I see what they were doing, but because of what happened in regards of those sequels and whatnot getting canceled, we're left with a really big, this is what Power Rangers could have been. Yeah.
Yeah. And I do like what they did with the setup for this, because they give you enough of Zordon and Rita. They talk about how the Zeo Crystal seeds life across the universe. So it's not exactly lore accurate to what the comics and the television show had done before it, but it's nice. It feels like, okay, you are world building. And I really could have appreciated it. Now, there was a comic book that was done after this movie that shows what happens to Angel Grove afterwards, and some of the putties where there were still some left in Angel Grove due to the remnants of Rita's magic, which, again, kind of cool. I would have liked to have seen more of that.
Well, I don't love Rita in this. Like, I don't think Banks did a bad job. I think she was.
I think Elizabeth Banks is the only person in this movie that knew what kind of movie she was in and was playing it up to the point where she was trying to bring levity to the movie where the movie didn't want the levity.
Well, I mean, that's what you said earlier when we were introing it, is the tonalness of it is kind of all over the place. It's got a little bit of like really horror Final Destination-esque elements, and then you've got this side of like kids discovering their powers and being kids, and there's no meeting in the middle. You kind of just have those pieces all simmering together, and then they try.
You can tell how many writers are on this film.
Exactly. Yeah, and that's.
Inconsistent.
It's not a bad movie because of that. Because I mean, any good movie
it's
has
watchable.
Multiple writers sometimes. Yeah, it's watchable. Absolutely. I put it on last night when I got home. Like, I'm not even shitting you. Like, probably about midnight, and I ended up watching the whole damn thing because I was like, I'll probably fall asleep at some point, and it kept me entertained because it's still a genuinely fun, good movie. But it doesn't feel very Power Rangers to me. It feels like they had all the pieces there, but the problem is they had too many cooks in the kitchen. You had a complete a derailment of what your original concept world. So then we are left with these pieces that are probably going to make sense later on that we only have in this one film now, and will probably have forever now, because I don't think they're really going to go back to that at any time.
Well, they already. It was maybe a couple of years afterwards they sold all the props and stuff at auction. So it was basically the nail in the coffin that we're not doing it anymore.
Let's go ahead and just get this out of the way too. Do you know what the budget was on, by the way?
I don't actually.
150.
It's estimated to 100 million to 150 million, and the returns were 40 million opening weekend and taking in 142 worldwide gross. So yeah, it technically did make money in a sense, but it probably didn't when you added in all the advertising, because they were pushing this thing pretty fucking hard.
Because there's advertising, deals, brand deals.
Yeah. Oh yeah. So I mean, it's
supposed to be a huge franchise for Lionsgate, and
exactly. They said 5 films. They said they were looking at 5 films minimum, and we got one. We got one of the 5. So it's not. Yeah, go ahead.
And like, to be fair, all of the young cast, great. Honestly, the one person that stands out is Naomi Scott, and she is the one that has the biggest career out of all of them.
Yeah. As good as she was, the person that played Billy,
yes, 100%. He's great in the movie.
Yeah, like one thing I did like about this is while making the Rangers more grounded and not gender swapping but race swapping a few of them, on surface that's fine. I actually don't mind it. I like what they did with Billy, making him an individual that's on the spectrum in some sort. That's great because it works for him. And
Billy's great.
I even think there's references to the rad bug in there too. I couldn't say 100% for sure, but it's clear how certain characters are written. Somebody who is writing that character knew, or the actor's like, I can add this from the TV show or from other ancillary media. I
believe RJ Seiler during interviews said he was a big fan of the original series and wanted to incorporate some stuff because he's a 95 baby, so he was
in the right era, more or less.
In the right era.
Now, the only, as much as I like Darce Montgomery, the guy that plays Jason, he is not
he's a
Jason.
block of wood.
Let's just go ahead and say it. Most of them are forgettable. Most of these Power Rangers are forgettable. We don't spend a lot of time with them. They try to do a Breakfast Club thing with them, and it doesn't work out.
And it sucks, too, because the guy who plays Zack goes on to play Liu Kang in the Mortal Kombat reboot that happened 5 or 6 years after this. And he's not bad as Liu Kang. But it's like, okay, you're going to make Zack this guy who's a mama's boy. He's looking after his grandmother. I get that. That's a story that they very briefly explore. You don't get a lot of depth to them. Trini, you know that she is a girl who's discovering her identity. Maybe she's gay, bi, maybe even transgendered. I don't know. They're just, again, interesting idea on paper, but it's never given enough room to breathe. If we'd maybe gotten those 5 films, maybe this could have been something really interesting. And I think you see this later on in the franchise, because I know in one of the future, I think it's called Cosmic Fury, one of the Power Rangers is openly gay and they marry their girlfriend. Like, okay, cool. That's awesome. I dig that. That's neat. And maybe you could credit this with starting that.
Yeah.
But it just feels like there's so much wasted potential here. Although there is one moment in this movie, every single time it gets me and I love it. The moment they get their Zords, after the first morph, they come out of the command center, which is just basically a hunk of rock inside a spaceship, but they get their Zords and you get the sting from the 95 movie of go Power Rangers. And for a minute and a half, it's fucking awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I wanted more.
I will say too, the score in this is phenomenal. The music is phenomenal. Even because they even lend into the Power Ranger theme at one of the final end pieces, but it's just it's a movie that exists because of a franchise that is loved and cherished.
Yeah.
I see what they tried to do.
No.
I see what they were going for. I appreciate it, but it's one that I will probably see the least in my life.
Yeah, because
also-
it's fine.
Yeah.
To shout out who did the score, Brian Tyler. So yeah, that makes sense. He is a.
Oh yeah.
He's
the
video game guy, right?
He does a lot of video. He does everything.
Well, he's the guy
like,
behind like Iron Man and Avengers, and one of my favorites, if I remember correctly, and tell me if I'm wrong, Law Abiding Citizen's him, I think.
Yes.
Yeah, Law Abiding Citizen has a kick-ass score.
But
Did
like
he
Brian,
do Assassin's Creed Black Flag? Is that the same Brian Tyler I'm thinking of?
yes.
Okay, then yeah, great score.
And he also did Cats remake, so another great movie there.
Well,
Shut the fuck
also,
up!
Dude, I don't even want to talk about it. I've seen that movie twice in my life, and that's still too many times.
It's so goddamn terrible.
I will only watch that movie while drinking.
And that's the right way to do it. But yeah, Brian Tyler, no, he's phenomenal. So, I mean, you got that score and everything behind it. So you have the pieces of the movie there. It's just we are left with the remnants of a world that we do not get to build on. We do not get to really know what they were going to do with it. They tried to bring it into the 2020s essentially. And it would just, I don't really think you've got the Power Ranger flow that you would. The vibe. Thank you. Yeah, I don't think you have the vibe here that you essentially could have. But I mean, I'm just going to say it. Power Rangers is really hard to update because they keep doing the same thing in a sense. They just kind of keep changing the Ranger style. And I could be wrong because I haven't watched the series in God knows how long. I stick with the OG series and may watch the Turbo movie every now and then. But
I mean, honestly, if you want
the
a
Turbo
really good
movie
series,
was more watched in my household when we were younger.
And that's post Zeo, right?
That is
Zeo
post Zeo.
Yeah,
that is the post Zero.
I mean, if you want to, if I had to give a very high level recommendation for Power Rangers series to watch, Power Rangers RPM is the Power Rangers meets the Terminator, and I'm not even kidding.
Yep.
It's dark as hell at times. Power Rangers SPD is Power Ranger Cops, but it's really interesting. Power Rangers Dino Charge is really fun, and Dino Fury and Mystic Force is fun. Like the theme song sounds like Outcast, and I would argue, I would wonder if they say.
I'm more of a proponent of Time Force.
Yeah, Time Force is great.
I just love the concept of Time Cops.
Yeah, which kind of is topical because I'm not going to give too much away, but yeah, like it's watchable. I like the designs of the outfits. I think I've seen concept art for what the Green Ranger should have looked like, because obviously the Green Ranger has the dragon shield, and in the new style of armor, that could have looked really friggin' cool.
Yeah.
I mean, they literally tease it at the end.
Well, they fucking tease Tommy Oliver, and that pisses me off every time I watch it because I'm just like, I'm reminded of what we have.
What could have been.
What could have been. Yeah. Because the one thing I don't think we've said is that Goldar is what she's trying to summon this entire movie, Rita, and we get we get what, 3 minutes of him?
Goop. Yeah, Goop. I like to call him Goopdar.
Yeah,
Goopdar, because he's like this elemental force made out of gold that vaguely is the shape of Goldar from Mighty Morphin, but it has no personality. Like in the original series, Goldar used to taunt Jason. He
had one-liners. He was a laugher, and like that's going back to Rita real quick before we get out of the movie. It's just I think Elizabeth Banks did a good job of what she had. Mm-hmm. However, I will say that watching this last night, they really took some bold steps with her horror aspect of it that I don't really know if it fits what they're trying to do with this franchise. But at the same time, it's not a bad performance. She's just working with what she's got. It's just a really odd creation of Rita to have her as this sea witch in this boat that starts sucking the life out of people and then eating gold in a jewelry shop at one point. Like it's weird. And even her, spoilers, even her killing Billy at the one point is a fucking move. And, absolutely, they bring him back and whatnot. But like it's a move that you don't expect, and like I appreciate that they tried to bring it into a more adult element. But if they were going to do that, go with the fucking R rating. Just go with the R rating at this point. I know that's probably a big naysay in the studio because who's going to go see an R-rated Power Rangers movie? But I mean,
how about the adults that
exactly
are literally the right age range?
The reason I say who's going to say that is because like I said, R.I.P. Jason David Frank. I love the guy, and I got to meet him once. Super cool guy. However, when that freaking fan film dropped, and he was like, "You guys have been asking me about the fan film, and Power Rangers is a kids thing, and blah blah blah." And I'm just like, dude, what about the people that grew up with it? Like, I get that you have a daughter, and it's not exactly something you'd want her to watch, but like, we're all in our 20s now and up, and I think at this point we can totally stand an R-rated Power Rangers movie. But yeah, we're probably not going to get it. But like, I feel like with some things they did in this one, it's the closest we're ever going to get besides that fan film.
Yeah. I mean, ultimately, there's a lot of really interesting things on YouTube. There was like a Bat in the Sun production where you got to see the Green Power Ranger fight Ryu from Street Fighter. There was a Shattered Grid promo where Jason David Frank dresses up as Lord Draken. There's a lot of cool stuff in the Power Rangers fandom that still exists. While the franchise is definitely in a very cold period right now that Netflix isn't producing new seasons of the show, Sentai's still going on strong in Japan, and as of this recording, Power Rangers has just got a new line of toys announced by Playmates, who now holds the license over from Hasbro. So we're gonna wait and see. I mean, I'm looking forward to seeing this franchise hopefully come back to life again at some point. I'm looking forward to yelling it's morphing time, and right now I can look up on my shelf, I can see my Lord Draken helmet, my Dragon Dagger, and my Power Rangers Morpher, and I still treasure those things. So this is a franchise that's near and dear to my heart. I really recommend you guys check out both films. They're two vastly different takes on the same source material.
I mean, a bull gets jerked off in the 2017 one. Who knew?
Yeah, there you go. That's not exactly, Ernie's Juice Bar and Bulk and Skull, but hey.
That's the fact. Like when I popped this in last night and I forgot about that. I was just like, wow, they really just like were like, this isn't your parents' Power Rangers, kids. I'm just like, this is fucking ridiculous.
Oh my god. But yeah, like there's so much stuff that could happen. It didn't, and that's okay. I'm still glad I got this movie. I'm glad I got both. I'm glad I've gotten 3 Power Rangers movies, because that's about 2 more than I honestly expected. Yeah. So yeah, guys. So that's going to do it for this edition of Loose Cannon. We're going to be back with more great stuff. We've talked about doing stuff on courtroom dramas. We still have to do those Aladdin movies we've been talking about forever. We've got probably some more anime from Ken. We got a lot of cool shit to talk about, so look forward to that coming up here on the show whenever Alex decides to schedule this. So for This Week in Geeks Loose Cannon, we're beginning to sweep up the popcorn here on the floor, go back behind the curtain where you people are just disgusting. So from the great state of New Jersey, we have been
Ken from This Anime.
From a place beyond space and time, otherwise known as Ohio,
David Denoyer from Do You Even Movie.
And I've been Mike the Birdman saying, be kind, rewind. We'll catch you guys next time right here on thisweekingeek.net.
We're going to Angel Grove. Let's get the Zords.
This is a lot different than the van. Yippee-ki-yay, mother... Mother's good. Mother's good.
Go, go, Power Rangers!
Jason, I'm going backwards!
Are either one of these any good? Sir?
What?
Are either one of these any good?
I don't watch movies.
Quick, change the channel!
You're wasting your life making shit! Nobody cares! These movies are terrible!
You're still here? It's over. Go home. Go.
I am King Goldar, the ruler of the universe! Uh-oh.